There are thousands of hotels around the world, places where travelers arrive late at night, exhausted from long journeys, looking for nothing more than a quiet room and a comfortable bed. Most hotel rooms are forgettable: a bed, a lamp, a television mounted on the wall, maybe a window overlooking the city. Nothing strange, nothing memorable, but somewhere in an aging hotel, in a quiet part of the city, there is a room that people remember for a very different reason. A room that the staff rarely talk about, a room that some employees refuse to clean, a room that doesn't appear on many booking websites anymore because several guests who stayed there simply vanished. No broken windows, no signs of forced entry, no struggle, no bodies, just people checking in and never being seen again. Tonight we're going to explore the disturbing mystery of the hotel room that made people disappear. And the deeper you go into this story, the stranger it becomes. The building stands at the corner of a quiet street, 6 floors tall, built in the late 1950s. Its faded brick walls and narrow windows give it an old, tired appearance. This is the Marrowgate Hotel. Once it was one of the most popular places to stay in the city. Business travelers stayed there. Families on vacation booked rooms for weeks. It had a small restaurant, a bar in the basement, and a reputation for being comfortable and affordable. But over time, the city around it changed. New hotels were built, modern buildings replaced the older ones, and the Marrowgate slowly became just another aging hotel that few people paid attention to. Most nights, the lobby is quiet, a single receptionist behind the desk, a few guests passing through. Nothing unusual, but the employees who have worked there for many years know something strange about the building, something that started decades ago, and strangely, it always seems connected to the same room, room 327. At first glance it looks like any other room in the hotel: a queen-sized bed, a small desk near the window, a television mounted across from the bed, a bathroom with white tiles and a small mirror above the sink. Nothing about it seems unusual. If you walked inside, you wouldn't immediately feel anything strange. No cold air, no strange smell, no visible signs of danger. But according to several employees, people who stayed in that room sometimes reported very strange experiences. Some said they felt like they were being watched. Others said they heard footsteps in the middle of the night. A few guests even complained that someone had knocked on their door late at night, but when they opened it, no one was there. At first, the staff assumed these were just normal complaints. Hotels often receive strange reports from tired travelers. But then something happened that no one at the hotel could explain. The first disappearance happened in 1987. A man named Daniel Mercer checked into the hotel late at night. Daniel was a traveling salesman. He had been driving across several states, meeting clients and visiting stores. According to the receptionist on duty, Daniel seemed completely normal, tired but friendly. He signed the guest book, handed over his credit card, and was given the key to room 327. Security cameras in the lobby captured him entering the elevator around 11:42 p.m. He was carrying a small suitcase and a leather briefcase. That was the last confirmed time anyone saw him. The next morning, housekeeping knocked on his door. No answer. They assumed he had already left. But when the receptionist checked the system, Daniel had not checked out. So around noon, a staff member opened the door with a master key. The room looked completely normal. The bed was untouched. His suitcase was still near the desk. His briefcase sat on the chair. Even his wallet was inside the room. But Daniel Mercer was gone. At first, the hotel assumed Daniel had simply left early. Maybe he stepped out, maybe he went for breakfast. But hours passed. Then an entire day. Still no sign of him. Eventually the police were contacted. Officers searched the entire hotel. The lobby, the stairwells, the basement, even the roof. But there was no sign that Daniel had left the building. Even stranger, there were no security cameras showing him exiting. His car was still parked outside the hotel. His phone was still inside his suitcase. His wallet still contained all of his cash and credit cards. It was as if Daniel Mercer had simply vanished. The police eventually classified it as a missing persons case, but they never found any answers. And for years, the disappearance remained a strange but isolated mystery, until it happened again, 8 years later. Another guest checked into room 327. Her name was Elena Vasquez. Elena was a photographer traveling through the city. She planned to stay only 2 nights before continuing her trip. According to hotel records, she checked in around 7:15 p.m. She spent some time in the lobby bar, ordered dinner, then went upstairs around 10 p.m. Security cameras confirmed she entered the elevator alone, just like Daniel Mercer years earlier. The next morning, housekeeping knocked on the door. No answer. They returned later. Still no answer. When they finally opened the door, the room looked exactly like it did in the first disappearance. Her suitcase was there, her clothes were on the bed, her camera sat on the desk, but Elena Vasquez was gone. After the second disappearance, rumors started spreading among the hotel staff. 2 people disappearing from the same room, years apart, without any explanation. It didn't feel like a coincidence anymore. Some employees began refusing to enter room 327 alone. Others claimed strange things happened inside the room. Lights flickering, television turning on by itself. A strange feeling that someone else was inside the room, even when it was empty. But management didn't want panic spreading among the guests, so the room remained open, available for booking. And for several years, nothing happened. Until the night that changed everything. For almost 5 years after the second disappearance, nothing unusual happened. Room 327 remained open. Guests stayed there, checked out normally. And for a while it seemed like the strange events were just coincidences. To missing persons cases, years apart, unsolved, but unrelated, at least, that's what the hotel management hoped. But in 2001, something happened that completely changed how the staff viewed room 327, because this time, someone almost made it out. His name was Michael Turner, a software engineer traveling for a business conference. Michael checked into the Marrowgate Hotel on a rainy October evening. Like most guests, he didn't know anything about the room's history. The receptionist handed him the key. Room 327, according to hotel records. Michael entered the room around 9:47 p.m. Later that night, around 11:30 p.m., he called the front desk. At first, the receptionist thought it was a normal complaint, but the conversation quickly became strange. Michael asked a very unusual question. He said, "Is someone walking in the hallway outside my room?" The receptionist checked the hallway cameras. No one was there. She told him the hallway was empty. Michael paused for a moment. Then he said something that made the receptionist uncomfortable. "Then someone is inside my room." The receptionist immediately asked if he wanted security to come upstairs. But Michael hesitated. He said he could hear something moving near the bathroom. Slow footsteps, soft dragging sounds. The receptionist told him to leave the room immediately, but Michael refused. He said the sound had stopped. Everything was quiet again. Then the phone line suddenly went silent. The receptionist called his room again. No answer. She tried several times. Still nothing. Eventually, she contacted the night security guard and asked him to check room 300. What he discovered that night would become one of the most disturbing reports in the hotel's history. The security guard arrived at room 327 around 11:50 p.m. He knocked on the door. No response. He knocked again. Still nothing. Finally, he used a master key and slowly opened the door. At first glance, the room looked normal, but there were small details that immediately felt wrong. The bathroom light was on. The television was displaying static, and the room's phone receiver was hanging off the side of the desk, as if someone had dropped it suddenly. But Michael Turner was nowhere to be seen. The security guard searched the room carefully. The bed had been disturbed. The sheets were half pulled off. Michael's laptop sat open on the desk. His suitcase was still beside the wall. But what disturbed the guard the most was the bathroom. The bathroom door was slightly open. Inside, the light flickered slowly, and the mirror above the sink had something written on it. 3 words, written in what looked like condensation from steam. "Don't look behind you." The guard later told police he felt an overwhelming sense of fear standing in that room, as if someone was standing directly behind him, watching him. He quickly left the room and called the police. When the police arrived, they once again searched the entire hotel. Just like before, stairwells, hallways, maintenance rooms, the basement, even the ventilation systems. There was no sign of Michael Turner. But this time, investigators discovered something unusual. When they reviewed the security cameras, they noticed something strange in the hallway footage outside room 327, something that no one could explain. The hallway camera showed the corridor outside room 327 between 11:30 p.m. and midnight. At 11:46 p.m., something appeared on the footage. For less than 2 seconds, a dark shape passed in front of the camera. Not a person, not a shadow from the lights. It moved too quickly, almost like something crawling across the ceiling of the hallway. Investigators tried to enhance the footage, but the image was too distorted. Some people believed it was just a camera glitch. Others believed it was something far stranger. But what made the footage even more disturbing was what happened 1 minute later. At 11:47 p.m., the camera clearly shows the door to room 327, slowly, quietly, opening just a few inches, but no one walks out. No one enters. The door simply opens by itself, and then slowly closes again. 1 minute later, The security guard arrives and knocks. But Michael Turner is already gone, vanished, just like the others. After the third disappearance, rumors inside the hotel became impossible to ignore. Employees refused to enter room 327. Housekeeping demanded the room be permanently closed. Even some guests claimed they heard strange noises coming from the hallway late at night. Management eventually removed room 327 from the hotel's booking system. Officially, it was listed as under maintenance. But the truth was simple. No one wanted to stay there anymore. And for several years, the door to room 327 remained locked, untouched, silent, until one curious journalist decided to investigate the room himself, and what he discovered was something no one expected. For years, room 327 remained closed. The door stayed locked. A small sign hung from the handle, "Maintenance, do not enter." Most guests never even noticed it. But in 2012, a local journalist named Ethan Cole became interested in the strange rumors surrounding the Marrowgate Hotel. Ethan specialized in unusual urban stories, haunted buildings, unsolved mysteries, disappearances. When he heard about a hotel room connected to multiple missing people, he immediately began investigating. At first, he assumed the story was exaggerated. Urban legends often grow larger with time, but the more he researched the hotel, the stranger the story became. Ethan started with police records. He confirmed the 3 disappearances. Daniel Mercer, Elena Vasquez, Michael Turner, 3 people, 3 separate years, all last seen in room 327, and none of them were ever found. But Ethan also discovered something else, something older, something that happened before the hotel even existed. Because the Marrowgate Hotel wasn't the first building on that land. In the early 1900s, the land where the hotel stands today used to be occupied by a small hospital, a private medical facility. It operated for nearly 30 years, but according to old city records, the hospital closed suddenly in 1931. The official reason listed in the documents was structural damage caused by a fire, but Ethan discovered newspaper articles from that time that told a much darker story. Several patients had reportedly disappeared from the hospital. Not 1, not 2, but 5 patients within a single year, and strangely, their rooms were all located in the same wing of the building, the exact area where room 327 would later be built. Ethan visited the Marrowgate Hotel and requested permission to look around the building. The manager was reluctant at first, but after some persuasion, he allowed Ethan limited access. While exploring the hotel's basement, Ethan noticed something strange. One wall looked different from the others. The bricks were newer, as if the wall had been sealed later. Curious, Ethan asked the manager about it. The manager hesitated before answering. Then he said something strange. "That wall leads to part of the original hospital foundation." According to the manager, when the hotel was built in the 1950s, construction workers discovered old tunnels beneath the building. Tunnels that once connected different parts of the hospital. But instead of removing them, they simply sealed them behind concrete walls. One of those sealed areas was directly beneath room 327. At this point, Ethan believed he had found the key to the mystery. Maybe the disappearances weren't supernatural. Maybe there was a hidden passage connected to the old hospital tunnels, a secret entrance somewhere inside the room. So Ethan made a bold decision. He asked the hotel manager for permission to spend one night inside room 327. The manager immediately refused, but after several days of negotiation, he finally agreed. On one condition, Ethan had to sign a document stating that the hotel would not be responsible for anything that happened during his stay. Ethan signed it, without hesitation. On a cold November evening, Ethan Cole walked down the third-floor hallway toward room 327. The hallway lights hummed softly. The carpet absorbed the sound of his footsteps. The door stood at the end of the corridor closed. Silent, Ethan unlocked the door and stepped inside. At first, the room looked exactly as described in the reports. A bed, a desk, a television, a small bathroom. Nothing unusual, but Ethan immediately noticed something strange about the atmosphere. The air inside the room felt heavy, almost like the pressure in the room was different from the hallway outside. He set up his equipment to cameras, a voice recorder, and a laptop. He planned to document everything that happened during the night. For the first few hours, nothing happened. Ethan sat at the desk writing notes, occasionally checking the cameras. Everything was quiet, too quiet. Then, around 12:17 a.m., the first strange thing happened. The bathroom light flickered once, twice, then turned off. Ethan stood up slowly. He walked toward the bathroom door and pushed it open. The light suddenly turned back on, but what he saw inside the bathroom made his heart start racing. The mirror above the sink was covered in condensation, as if someone had just taken a hot shower. But Ethan hadn't used the bathroom yet. Slowly, letters began appearing on the mirror, one by one, as if someone invisible was writing them. Ethan watched in silence as the message formed. "You shouldn't be here." The room suddenly became extremely cold. Ethan grabbed his camera and began recording. But that's when he heard something else. A sound coming from beneath the floor. A faint scraping noise, like something moving slowly below the room. Ethan knelt down near the center of the room. The sound became louder, scraping, dragging, then suddenly, 3 loud knocks echoed from beneath the floorboards. Ethan jumped backward. The knocks repeated, slow, deliberate, knock, 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 then silence. Ethan later said that in that moment he felt something watching him from somewhere inside the room. Not the hallway, not the bathroom, but somewhere closer, much closer. And then something happened that terrified him more than anything else that night. From the corner of the room, the closet door slowly began to open. No wind, no sound of footsteps, just the door, slowly moving. Ethan raised his camera toward the closet. The darkness inside seemed unusually deep, almost like the space inside was larger than it should be. Then something inside the closet moved. Something tall, something thin, and Ethan immediately ran for the door. Ethan didn't stop to think. The moment he saw movement inside the closet, his instincts took over. He grabbed his camera and rushed toward the door. His hands were shaking as he struggled to unlock it. For a brief second, the door wouldn't open, and during that second, he heard something behind him. A sound he would later describe as slow footsteps, moving across the carpet, not running, not rushing, just walking calmly, slowly, as if whatever was inside the room knew he couldn't escape. Finally, the door opened. Ethan ran into the hallway and slammed it shut behind him. He didn't look back. He ran all the way to the elevator and went straight to the lobby. The night receptionist later said Ethan looked completely pale, sweating, breathing heavily, and repeating the same sentence over and over. Something is wrong with that room. The next morning, Ethan reviewed the footage from the cameras he had left inside the room. At first, everything looked normal. The video showed Ethan sitting at the desk, writing notes, checking his equipment. Then the bathroom light flickered, exactly as he remembered. The camera clearly captured the moment the message appeared on the mirror. "You shouldn't be here." But what happened after that made Ethan feel a deep chill, because the camera had captured something he hadn't seen that night. Behind Ethan, near the wall beside the closet, a shadow slowly appeared. At first it looked like a distortion in the video, but as the footage continued, the shape became clearer. It was tall, too tall to be a normal person. Its head almost touched the ceiling, and its arms looked unnaturally long. The figure didn't move like a human. Instead of walking, it seemed to slide slowly across the floor, moving toward Ethan, but Ethan never noticed it. Not until the closet door started opening. Ethan had placed a second camera facing the closet. He expected to capture any strange movement from that direction, but what the camera recorded was far worse than he imagined. When the closet door began opening, the inside of the closet looked completely dark, but as the door opened wider, the darkness inside didn't behave normally. Instead of revealing the back wall of the closet, it looked like the space continued much deeper, as if the closet led somewhere else, somewhere far beyond the wall of the hotel room. And then the camera captured something moving inside that darkness, something slowly leaning forward. There was one frame in the video that Ethan replayed dozens of times. One single moment where the camera captured the thing inside the closet. Clearly it had a face, but not a human face. Its skin looked pale and stretched. Its eyes were completely black, and its mouth seemed too wide, almost like it had been pulled open. The figure leaned halfway out of the closet, looking directly toward Ethan, and then the recording ended. After reviewing the footage, Ethan returned to the hotel with a construction specialist. They carefully examined the floor of room 327. Eventually, they discovered something hidden beneath the carpet, a small metal panel, almost invisible. When they removed it, they found a narrow shaft leading downward, directly into the sealed tunnels beneath the hotel. The same tunnels connected to the old hospital foundation. But what disturbed them the most was the smell coming from inside, a deep, damp odor, like something that had been trapped underground for decades. Using flashlights, they looked into the shaft. The tunnel below was extremely narrow, barely large enough for a person to crawl through. It extended several meters before turning into darkness. But something inside the tunnel caught Ethan's attention. Scratches. Hundreds of scratches carved into the concrete walls, long, deep, desperate, as if someone had tried to climb back up from the tunnel. Later that week, investigators used a small camera attached to a cable to explore the tunnel. The camera moved slowly through the darkness, For several minutes, nothing appeared. Just old concrete walls and dust. Then suddenly, the camera reached a small underground chamber, and inside that chamber, they found something horrifying. Personal belongings, suitcases, clothing, wallets, old electronics, items belonging to people who had disappeared over the years, including objects that belonged to Daniel Mercer, the first missing guest. But there were no bodies, only the belongings, as if the people themselves had simply vanished. After the discovery, the hotel permanently closed room 327, the door was sealed, the tunnel beneath the floor was filled with concrete, and the entire story was quietly buried. The Marrowgate Hotel still operates today. Guests stay there every night. Most of them have no idea what happened in that building, but if you walk down the third floor hallway, you'll notice something strange. The room numbers go from 326 directly to 328. Room 327 no longer exists, at least, not officially, but some former employees still say that, late at night, when the hallway is completely silent, they sometimes hear something scratching beneath the floor, slowly, patiently, as if whatever was inside that tunnel is still there, waiting for someone to open the door again.